there was sad development there. Right now, we've been joined by a witness to the event that had occurred on Saturday. He is no other person than Kingsley Omosai. It's good to have you join us on the show, Kingsley. All right, you were there at the incident, at the scene of the event, or you were on sports, and you saw all that had transpired, if I'm correct. Take us through the events that happened on that Saturday.
Well, thank you. It happened on Saturday, on 18th of January. So it was, I think, between the hours of 11, 8 a.m. So I went there, and I was privileged to speak with one of the shop owners, you know. No, I went there.
Okay, you heard about it, yes, and you went there. I went there proposing to. So according to, because already some people were already dead before my arrival. So it happened that a truck loaded with petrol fell down along the road, that particular road. So then when it fell down, people were locking their shops, leaving that particular area. Okay. So along the line, it's like another truck came up trying to kind of transload or something like that. Okay. So people were now fetching from the fuel. Were there no security people on the spot to tell people not to go close to where the tanker had fallen?
I don't think there was something like that, but at least people should lose their initiative now.
Okay, so because there were like two bodies, and they were. I think in that audio of yours, it was said that maybe there were officers. Were there security personnel at the spot?
Yes. Okay. There were. So along the when people were not trying to fetch from the petrol, there was fire outbreak. So as a result of that, more than 100 people lost their lives. So I can see it in the video.
Well, okay. So the issue, why you've narrated the story that had occurred, and there's this discrepancy based on figures. While some credit the number to about 70 thereabouts. Some people say 80. Some people, when I was in my house, I heard 200 people. And I was wondering, 200 people had died from that explosion. But I'd like to ask you, why do you think people, this is like a reoccurring incident? We had one in Jigawa. When we were talking before we came in, you said someone had told you that there was an accident like that. Why do you think people often do not learn from this kind of lessons? Would you accredit it to poverty or non-orientation, lack of education, or what have you?
Well, I believe it should be, I think, attributed to poverty or lack of proper orientation, mostly orientation, orientation and poverty. So imagine people taking such a risking their life, because how much is a liter of fuel? Okay, for instance, maybe most of them were able to maybe gather up to maybe 25 liters of fuel. How much are you going to sell it, and how many days will it take you? So I think it should be poverty and lack of proper orientation. So I believe.
Okay, before we go down to other questions regarding orientation and education, you were interviewing a businessman. I think, if I remember, his name is Matthew or thereabouts.
Two of them like that.
Yes, two businessmen.
Yes, one of them is David, and
they had lost their goods in their shop. Take us through that.
Yeah, so I was privileged to speak with him. One Mr. David, and the other one Matthew. So she narrated the whole story to me, how it all started. So he lost his goods. He's a shop owner. The other one is a mechanic there. So he lost his goods. Most of the items he used to in doing his work. Then the other one lost his goods. He said he just came back from market or something like that, you know. And the daughter was even charging a phone in the shop. So the girl was not coming to pick up her phone when the whole thing started. So a lot of shops got burnt.
At that same address.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, okay, so you said like over 100 people died in that.
Lost their lives, yes.
That. Were you privileged to have escorted them to? Because I understand that there was a mass burial on that same day.
At the time I arrived at the scene of the incidents, the corpses were gathered together. So I now asked one of the officers who used to speak off camera. So he told me that I asked him how many that particular spot. He said there were about 68 corpses. You can see the ones covered with mango leaves. So 68 corpses. It's like most of them died. Maybe some of them were trying to run away. So then most of them were in the hospital. There's about more than 100, according to were in the hospital receiving treatment, and probably many of them might not survive it.
So sad. In terms of identification of the victims by their loved ones, because I saw you interviewing, identifying with a woman who had lost her brother or a loved one at that accident.
Exactly.
Okay, so did you hear of any issue about people trying to identify their loved ones and saying, because I'd gotten information that many people could not identify?
Yeah. So what actually happened is that she only told me the name of the, I think the person she lost, that I think the name of the victim is Mustafa. But honestly, people put the burnt beyond recognition. So you can't recognize anyone.
Okay, for you who had seen the whole incident, what do you think? What are the lessons to be drawn from this incident? Because it seems, like I said earlier, it's recurring, and it seems like Nigerians are not learning. Okay, I understand that while we say their lack of orientation, even the president, so many people have come out to commiserate, and the president himself has ordered the orientation minister to look into it and ensure proper orientation is done. But albeit you still find that out when something like this, God forbid, happens again. You see people lose their lives. I also understand that there were innocent people who were just passing by. Some people at the markets, and they were also affected. So what do you think are the major lessons from this incident that occurred?
Well, life is a precious gift from God, and we should learn to appreciate God for the gift of life, and we should value our lives, because people take unnecessary risk just for peanuts. So we should learn to value our lives and avoid anything that will endanger our life, or that will put our life at risk. Because seeing such a thing, seeing such so going to such a place, a place like that to do something like that, it's very risky. So people should learn to value their lives and appreciate God for the gift of life.
Okay, so such incidents as this takes us to the extent at which humans want to make money, because like you said, it could be accredited to poverty. Because of the high rate of poverty in recent days, and we see how people scout for food just to exist and live.
Exactly.
So it takes you to wonder how the deepness or the extent at which humans, Nigerians or people, would even want to go as far to get daily bread, of course. But do you think it's justifiable? If I could ask that again, do you think using poverty as an excuse, okay, to do some kind of things? We saw the event that happened the other day, a guy chopping the body of a young lady. That's an extent at which people can go for money. The other day I was in a vehicle and I was like, oh, things we were just discussing the vehicle, and people were lamenting as to the high rate of things in the market and the rest, the cost of transportation in itself, and someone was like, oh, this has to stop. And the person that said no, that they will not blame the drivers, it's just the way it is. And I said, no, this was not how it was before. So people go as far, and he said that, well, it's normal now. So people go as far as doing anything, scooping fuel from a falling tanker. That is a precaution not taken wisely. Okay, so people go as far as doing this thing. Do you think poverty, and when you ask them, they say, oh, it's because they don't have food to eat, it's because they don't have water to drink, it's because they cannot afford their daily needs. Okay, that's what they will say. But I'm asking now, do you think it is an excuse?
To me, it's not an excuse, because most of those people, they have legs, they have hands. Most of them are economically active. They can engage in themselves in one activity or the other just to earn a living. So I don't think that should be a yardstick or a kind of a yardstick or an excuse, a reason for them to put their life at such risk. So they should try to work with their hands. People should try to work with their hands and make their livings. So
okay, let's talk about
it's not an excuse.
For the part of the drivers, reckless driving. Okay, some have attributed this incident to reckless driving. If you know DTAH, if you know Niger State, that DTAH as this, you know it as a place for, in terms of congestion, with heavy truck drivers, either one truck driver getting spoiled on the road, one falling off. And I could remember I was flying that route as at December before Christmas, and for 4 days or even more than 4 days, there were vehicles, heavy truck drivers, like there was no movement in like gridlock on that road. Okay, so you know DTAH Junction for those kind of stories. So do you think a kind of message should be passed to maybe the government in itself? Because I understand there's a road that leads to Mina, but the drivers would rather follow shortcuts. Okay, and there were even stories of drivers tipping those security people out there, maybe 1,000 naira, just to follow that route.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yes, definitely, so you don't know, but I'm saying that. So do you think some proportion of the blame should go to the government, or to, of course, to the drivers that ply those heavy truck? Maybe in a way, if they look for a way to ensure that those drivers go through the normal route in which they are supposed to go, will avoid casualties like this.
Well, you know, I believe the government are trying their best, and also I believe there must be an agency or authority saddled with such responsibility. So I believe, I think from my own suggestion, adequate orientation should be given to the drivers, even to the employers, to the employers also. Before employing anybody as a driver, you should properly examine his or her mental state, his way of life, and so on. You know, so some smoke while driving. Some people, there's some smoke on steering. So I believe adequate orientation should be given to them, both from the employers and the government agencies that saddled with such responsibilities. So that is my own advice.
All right, Kingsley Omosai, it's been a pleasure speaking with you on this issue. We hope you stay safe, even as you go about doing the goodwill messages and, of course, reporting live from scenes as this. It's really been a pleasure.
You're welcome.